uh, Takshak for thank you, Takshak, for been keeping this AIC been keeping this think tank series for some time, and today we got an opportunity to bring in Dr. Ram Puniyani. Is a renowned name we all know, and he's been a few public intellectuals who has been talking continuously on on Indian Constitution as well as Indian history, and through his various talks through YouTube channels, through various platforms, and various platforms wherein he is speaking for civil rights movement in India. So I mean, I will just introduce Mr. Ram Punyani about his work. So first of all, namaste and jai bhim to all the participants and all the Ambedkarite people across the world who is joining this call. Today, we have an eminent speaker. As at the start, we have introduced his name, Dr. Ram Puniyani ji. We all know him through various his activism throughout past 40, 50 years. Um, who is very vocal public intellectuals and activist who is speaking his mind for the constitutional ethos. That Mr. Dr. Ram Punyani is a doctor by profession, by learning. He is also a professor of biomedical engineering at IIT Bombay for some tenure. He is a president of Center for Study of Society and Secularism. For He has served as part of Indian People's Tribunal for various civil rights movement in Orissa and Madhya Pradesh. He regularly part of various news channels, talks, and shares his knowledge on Indian history, constitution, and civil rights. And notably, he been awardee of Maharashtra Foundation Award for social awareness about threat of communal politics in 2002. Then National Communal Harmony Award he was being given in 2007, and NCHRO's Mukundan C. Menon Award on 2015. And through his website rampunyani.com, he is publishing various his authorship like RSS Bhajpa, then Atankwad, then Communalism Explained, then Striving for Peace, then Ambedkar and Hindutva Politics, Communalism, Terrorism, and Social Perception, Shivaji, Respecting of All Religions. So various topics which are very relevant to the Indian context. So let me introduce Dr. Ram Punyani ji to all of us. And I think I should stop here because we all want Dr. Ram Punyani to address us on various burning topics which we have now, as Takshak has initially talked about the current situation back in India, about the constitutional ethos, and on various burning topics. So that is it. Back to you, Takshak, and you can may invite
Yeah,
Punyani ji.
thanks, Arun, for the brief introduction of Dr. Ram. Dr. Ram, please go ahead and get us the discussion.
Friends, good morning and Jai Bhim. I am very thankful to you for inviting me for this think tank talk. And the topic you have kept is something which is gripping us all through last many years, last 30, 40 years. But last 10 years, this topic, threat to constitution and threat to democratic values, this has really got heightened. And our democratic ethos are under severe strain. Constitutional values are under severe threat. So, I will like to highlight some of the things which you may be probably knowing, that as we talk of democracy and constitution, now we should have different constitutional institutions which keep a check on executive. So executive is one part of it, then judiciary is a equally important part, and the other one is media. Now, last 10 years, we are seeing that there has been a very strong pressure on the judiciary, to the extent that lately some very good judgments were coming from Supreme Court which were contradicting the policies of the executive. So what executive did, it prompted some 600 lawyers which are sympathetic to their ideology to write a letter to the judiciary that you are being unduly influenced by certain lobbies, etc., etc. Actually speaking, what we have seen is that judiciary in last 10 years has by and large sided with executive in a lot of things, while few recent judgments have been there which are contradictory to the government, especially in the issue of electoral bond and other rights of weaker sections of society. Similarly, if you see media is one of the biggest problems of the present times. I'll tell my friends that in India had a fairly good independent media. And this media, of course, was definitely trying to criticize the government also thoroughly. I will like to tell one very interesting anecdote from Jawaharlal Nehru. And while talking to Shankar, one who was the outstanding cartoonist of that time, Nehru was very impressed by his cartoons, but he called him for a cup of tea and told him that carry on your work, but don't spare me also. So that was the time. And now currently we are seeing a time where if some stand-up comic or some writer or some intellectuals, if they are strongly against the policies of the government, they are definitely jailed and they have a lot of sufferings to undergo. In addition, the mainstream media, what we call, is totally with the executive. Our television channels, I must tell you that by and large from last many years, many of us have stopped seeing television at all because it's the duty of the media is to take on the government for its wrong policies. Now, currently, this media is more a part of the government in taking on the opposition leaders. How did it happen? Did it happen suddenly? No. You all recall that Narendra Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat. That time he opened his doors for different corporate barons. Also the people who were controlling the media, who gradually took over most of the important media of the country. That is one part. And second is many of the media people, they are also influenced by the Hindu right-wing ideology, which is currently on the rampage all through. So this is second part. And third is that in our parliament, by and large, of course, opposition tries to bring up issues, but the ruling side, by and large, does ensure that those things are not discussed. Now, talking of parliament, you all must be remembering recently how the parliament has become sort of a religioized influence of religion-based politics. You may be remembering the inauguration of our new parliament building, in which the Prime Minister carried a Sengol, which was generally a symbol of power of religion and the state in the feudal times in the earlier kingdoms. So all that was done. And even in parliament, the president was not invited, vice president was not invited. There were some people who were doing some rituals, and that's how our parliament got inaugurated. Then recently you must have watched that contrary to the principles of constitution, which tells that state should keep aloof from the religious matters. As such, religious matters have become the central concern of this government. The way Ram Temple was inaugurated and the Prime Minister played the role of a head of a state and head of a religion. Now, this is a very funny category, which many commentators have pointed out. The way he went for this Ram Temple inauguration, this is very contrary to what after independence, when Somnath Temple was to be inaugurated, the state, Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister, he opposed it that state functionaries should not get involved in the religious matters. But as the right wing has become stronger, more and more such events are taking place, and the social fulcrum is tilting more towards emotive religious issues. Now, third thing which we see that as on one side, the BJP is the ruling power, but BJP itself is controlled by the ideology. Control means ideological control of RSS, of Hindu nationalism and Hindu Rashtra. So in this, I will remind my friends that when Mr. Modi was campaigning in 2014, he said that he is a Hindu, he is a nationalist, so he is a Hindu nationalist. He totally gave a very different color to the secular values of our constitution. And since he came to power, then the types of issues which were highlighted were related more to emotions, heightening the hysteria, and which in turn increases a hate towards religious minorities. We saw a great amount of such violence against religious minorities, and the very concept of a democracy basically revolves around how safe the minorities are, how safe the Democrat minorities are. That should be what should be the index of our democracy. Here, the religious minorities, particularly Muslims, have become very scared, and ghettoization, as you saw ghettoization of blacks in America, that ghettoization is very much on the rise. A country which should promote fraternity. Well, by fraternity, when this word was introduced in our constitution, we can call it a word for friendship or community. Today, if you see mixed localities are totally out of question. A Muslim, even of eminence, a professor of Tata Institute, or a very big star from the film world will not get a housing in the mixed colonies. And the type of issues which have taken place, which have increased the hate. And of course, Babri Mosque was one of the issues. I will not go into the details of that, but it was a make-believe thing. Now they're claiming that this issue has been there from last 500 years. But let me tell you that issue began only after the British came, and particularly after 1855. And we know that the Ram Lalla idols were kept in a mosque, and then they claim that they have what they call in Hindi pragat. They have dropped from heaven or somewhere, and so the temple has to be made. Around that, so much violence took place, right from our Mumbai violence, Bombay violence, 92, 93. Then later on, another issue, the major violence of Gujarat in 2002, another major violence of Kandhamal. Now, it is not only that Muslims are on the chopping block, even the religious minorities of Christians, they are also facing a lot of attacks. But these attacks are by and large scattered, barring two significant things, which I'll tell you. One was the burning of Pastor Graham's paper stains, and second was the Kandhamal violence. Now here, there is a strong social manufacturing of consent against both these communities, that Muslims are the temple destroyers, they have converted people by force, and about Christians, they say that they are converting the people. Now, statistical data is totally contrary to all this. But this has led to sort of an increasing hate, increasing violence, leading to polarization, and leading to strengthening of this politics in the name of religion. I will draw your attention to one Yale University major research. And this Yale University major research tells us that wherever violence is orchestrated, now this is another thing, communal violence is not a spontaneous thing. Wherever it gets orchestrated, it is because of the hatred which is propagated, and taking advantage of that hatred, some people from the right wing, they instigate a violence. And in turn, what is most important of this Yale University study, that after the violence, the ruling party around religious matters becomes stronger. So this is where religious minorities are there. And second is a promotion of the values around Manusmriti. Now, this is not done very, very openly, but openly also it is done. let me tell my friends that recently now we are going to face the elections. And one of the leaders from Karnataka said, we need 400 seats because we want to change the constitution. For changing the constitution, we want 2/3 majority. And I'll come to it that what they want to change, in which direction they want to change. Because the basic politics of this ruling party is in two directions. One is targeting religious minorities. And second is promoting the values of ancient times given in the Hindu holy books, particularly most bluntly articulated in Manusmriti. So this is their overall agenda. And seeing that what we are seeing last couple of years in a very intense form, that on one side they have been trying to appropriate, subjugate the democracy by buying over the public representatives, MLAs, members of legislative assembly, and member of parliaments, what is they called gloriously Operation Kamal. Of course, there are a lot of money. Demonetization gave them a lot of money. Then after that, this electoral bond which has come up, which is a totally illegal thing, that has given a lot of money to them. And in a similar vein, this ruling party has infiltrated, because now coming slightly to RSS, RSS is not supposed to be a cultural organization, but basically I define it as a supra-political organization. What I mean by supra-political, now this is the organization which not only controls and regulates the politics, it also has floated hundreds of organizations which have entered different walks of life, and through those walks of life, it has tried to promote one, Brahminical values, two, Brahminical culture. And currently, if I tell you that in our universities, most of the vice chancellors, the major qualification for their appointment is that they should be belonging to Hindu nationalist ideology. Faculty, of course, same thing has been going on from last 10 years. And what the case of Rohit Vemula or the severe beating of Kanhaiya Kumar just reflects how the campus atmosphere is being vitiated. So apart from this, third thing I will say that our constitution tells us to promote scientific temper. And this scientific temper was one of the major things which helped in evolving India from a very backward economy, very backward, very poor state of science and technology, to the state of affairs where Indian science could match with the global science, and all our basic institutions like universities, IITs in particular, CSIR, ARC, the first primitive organization of ISRO, and huge public sector, and the network of irrigation, apart from other things, were laid. Now that scientific temper is now being undermined, and what they call Indian knowledge systems. Now in this Indian knowledge system, they are trying to promote in our schools and universities that all the knowledge, like it may be gravity, it may be relativity, most of it is there in the Vedas. Keeping in mind that one of them said that nobody has seen monkeys turning into human beings, so Darwin's theory is wrong. So they removed Darwin's theory also. You all must be remembering how our Prime Minister, while inaugurating a modern hospital, told the assembly of learned doctors of high degrees that in ancient India also, the surgery was very advanced, and we had a plastic surgeon who could plant elephant's head on a child's body. Brilliant. So in that line, there are some 22 things which different of them have said, promoting blind faith. And this blind faith is one of the big obstacles for scientific temper. And in this direction, if you recall, we lost some of our brilliant thinkers like Dr. Dabholkar, Kalburgi, Pansare, and Gauri Lankesh. These murders took place mainly because of their rational stand apart from others. Now, same way, there is a constitutional mandate that poverty alleviation programs should be such that the gap between the rich and the poor should be gradually narrowed, And what we are seeing in last 10 years, if you see Oxfam report, it is 1% of the people who are benefiting, who are controlling over 40% of nation's property, while the bottom 60, 70% hardly have 1% of the national wealth. Overall, rising prices, rising unemployment. Unemployment is another very serious thing. Now, of course, it is not any democracy. Democracy is one which tries to become sort of a guardian for its all inhabitants, all citizens, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, and religion. But here we are seeing that poverty is increasing in the particular sections of society, while few affluent corporate sectors are becoming stronger and stronger. Now, I will like to link it up with why this is happening at ideological level. So as I told you, as I understand that BJP, the ruling party, is a political part of RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Now, during freedom struggle, on one hand, we have people like Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh struggling for free India. We have people like Bhimrao Babasaheb Ambedkar, who in parallel with the freedom movement articulates the ideas of social justice, not only for Shudras, but also gender justice also in a very strong way. And third, the major stream of national movement represented by Maulana Azad, Gandhi, Annie Besant, and Sardar Baldev Singh, which came in the form of national movement. And I must tell you, when these streams were coming up, at that time, these streams were coming up from the rising sections of society. Industrialization, British brought in for their own good. Education and communication, they brought for their own good. But India did benefit because of this. It is because of this modern education that the people like Jyotirao Phule, Savitribai Phule could make inroads for education for Dalits and women. And that, I must say, was one of the major things which caused to led to churning in the society. So on one hand, we see the rising classes, as I call them, which will include workers, Dalits on one side, modern educated classes, modern industrial classes. They conceptualize India as a nation in the making. And it was these concepts which I jointly, of course, I can explain in a different way. It was jointly these sectors which articulated the values of equality, fraternity, and these basic notion of justice. Now, on the other side, what happened? That when these groups were coming up and vaguely trying to articulate a democratic society, it was a very nascent form. We can't imagine. Like recently, I would recommend to you, if possible, you see the film Watan e Mere Watan, based on the life of Usha Mehta, who ran the Congress radio. That I'm not going for any particular party, but that gives an image of the type of society which was developing there. That was a time when Ambedkar had to go for Chaudhar Talab movement for access to public drinking water. He had to go for Kalaram movement, Kalaram temple entry movement, because he thought they are being labeled Hindus, so they should have a right to enter temple. And along with this, he burnt Manusmriti. My interpretation is that he must have burnt Manusmriti to indicate that Manusmriti gives the provisions of slavery. Manusmriti gives the provisions of slavery for Shudras and women. And I am opposed to it. So these should go. Same Babasaheb Ambedkar was nominated, selected by the national movement representative Mahatma Gandhi to draft the Indian Constitution. And Indian Constitution gives us those values which we cherish very strongly. Now, on the other side, when this is happening, India nation in the making, On the other side, the old feudal element, the upper caste element amongst Muslims and Hindus, because Muslims have a caste system that apart, but the feudal elements, the landlords, the kings, the rajas, nawabs, they were very perturbed about this. And as they were perturbed about it, they formed organizations. Before that, I forgot to tell you the organizations which I primarily see as contributing to India's democracy, India's constitution. And these were the revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh and his colleagues. These were the people like Ambedkar and Periyar who talked of self-respect and equality. And these were the people from national movement, which I told Indian National Congress. So just note their names also, note their names. Don't tell me Shakespeare says what is there in the name. Mark the names. They were purely ones which articulated our values. And other side, the feudal lords, the kings, rajas, nawabs, Hindus and Muslims, in due course, they came to form Muslim League, wanting a Muslim nation, and Hindu Mahasabha, wanting a Hindu nation. And on this Hindu nation's ideology, actually it is at around that time that word Hindutva was more defined. And Hindutva stood for, according to me, according to Savarkar, interpreted by me, this land spread from Sindhu to sea, then this Aryan race and Brahminical culture. So these are the three foundations of Hindutva around which RSS came in 1925. Now, this, when they came, this Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha, RSS, they did not participate in the freedom movement because they were looking for a Hindu nation or a Muslim nation, while the national movement was for a Indian national movement. And why I associate Ambedkar with this? Because he articulated precisely the values which were running through the national movement at different stages. Of course, it did not come all in a single go against caste, against untouchability. National movement did some things not adequate, but it did recognize that. So I was talking of these declining sections of society. They remained loyal to the British all through, and they articulated on one side Muslim nationalism and Hindu nationalism. Here, Savarkar, of course, the latest film has come out, which is totally full of falsehoods, and it tries to claim that India got freedom through this non-violent movement, which is totally wrong. And apart from that, so many other things. I will not go into that. So this RSS actually is very important to understand. RSS is formed in 1925. Why? Now, that was a time when major attempts by Dalits were being made to come to the social space to oppose the Brahminical values. And that RSS came from elite Brahmins in Nagpur area of Vidarbha, and they were disturbed that Dalits are coming into the social space, women are coming into the social space, average people are coming to the social space. So what will happen to the hegemony of this caste, Varna, kingdoms and all that? So that's what they call it, Hindu Rashtra. Basically, the hegemony of that. As I pointed out, I'll repeat this. So the whole concept of Hindu Rashtra is based on two major foundations. What are these two major foundations? One is to target, like Savarkar's definition of Hindu. He says Hindu is one who regards this land as holy land and fatherland. So Christians are out, Muslims are out. So RSS ideology on one side outcasts Muslims and Christians, calling that these religions are foreign religions. And the second and the most crucial point which we need to understand, that RSS was upset by the breakage, loosening of the caste system. I am not claiming that it has been wiped out. It has been annihilated. I am not saying that. But the very threat to the caste system prompted these people, and they were also inspired by Hitler in particular. So they went on to create a narrative. Around that narrative, they trained many volunteers, which are called Swayam Sevaks or Pracharaks. And what is the narrative? the narrative is that we have been a Hindu nation from times immemorial. Now, when did the concept of nation comes? Earlier, we were hunter food gatherers. We were the tribal society. We were the nomadic tribes. We had the kingdoms. They cannot be called the nation. The concept of nation begins with industrialization, communication, modern education. So the narrative is that we have been, and we had a glorious values in the form of our great Hindu holy books. They call it Indian now because they think mainly they control the whole of India. So here we have to see that that organization, which never participated in the making of India, but kept silently working for its volunteers. And today, I can't list how many of those organizations are there, which keep doing their work. And at the time of elections, they are the biggest army for BJP in the current time. Now, what type of issues RSS raises? It doesn't raise the issue of eradication of caste untouchability. It doesn't raise the issue of farmers. It doesn't raise the issue of unemployment. Today, all those people who want to articulate this, RSS labels them as wokes, those who are out to disturb the social peace. For them, this is a peaceful time when injustice is reigning, injustice is having a big time. So anybody like intellectuals, we had like I only name one whom you must be knowing, Anand Tumde, and 16 others who were in Father Stan Swami who got killed. All and recently another woman, I'm forgetting her name, who was released and whose book is now circulating in a good amount. Now all these they were in prison, and many of the people in the daily world. So basically, what type of issue they are interested? They raked up Ram temple issue. They raked up cow as our mother. Now, cow as our mother, I will elaborate for a minute or two. Now, there is a big joke also, which I will try to articulate. But basically, beef eating was there in the Vedic times. Professor D.N. Jha's brilliant book on ancient India tells us this. Swami Vivekananda also tells us this, that one was not a good Hindu who did not eat beef. So there was this what we call animal sacrifice. It was Lord Gautam Buddha who stood against this animal sacrifice in an unnecessary way. So after that, actually, Brahminism adopted cow as its mother. And one interesting thing today, when cow issues being raised, 90 lynching has taken place. 10 of Dalits have been killed on this issue. 4 Dalits were beaten mercilessly in Una. They are not concerned about cow. Actually, since they came, cow and other buffaloes, other animals are creating a lot of havoc against the farmers, against the streets. This has a political nuance to polarize the community. And it is raised not in Northeast, not in Kerala, not in Goa. So I was once reading that what are the intentions of this. So very funnily, I came to read about Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who some people call he was a right man in the wrong party. I think he was a wrong man in the wrong party, but that party he was a real right person. So once he was in US, America lecture tour, and after a lecture he was enjoying his meals. So his neighbor tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Atalji, what are you doing? You're eating beef." He smiled loudly and said, "Oh, this is beef. But this is not of Indian cow, this is an American cow. So let's have a good time, no problem." So these type of then love jihad has come in, and so many types of things have come. And I must say today what Indian democracy faces a problem of failure to eradicate the caste rigidities also. Fortunately, now because since this gay government came to power, subtly they have tried to eradicate reservation in different places at universities and other places. So the call which is coming up that there should be caste census is a welcome thing. And if that happens, probably we can overcome some of these things through reservation or other affirmative action. So what we are facing today, that since this government has come to power, believe me, you friends, that you can do a mathematical modeling of the first 50 years of Republic, next 25 years of Republic, and you will see that in first 50 years, the type of things we could install, bring in, and change the social structure was a remarkably great one. While since this last 10 years, our constitutional values have no importance for the ruling government at all. They are violating everything which is possible. They are stifling opposition. Now in democracy, you cannot go on unless you have a very vibrant opposition trying to weaken the opposition through very wrong means and trying to block their funds for election which were there. That is all happening. So this constitution, as I told you, basically 2 points I'll make, that how I see the politics of the present government. And there I will contrast it with Ambedkar's vision of India. Now, Ambedkar, in his all struggles, went on for social justice and burned Manusmriti. Same Ambedkar went on to be the chief architect of India's constitution. And on the other side, this ruling party, once its controller organization, RSS, its chief said that Indian constitution is based on Western values. It should be done away. And another constitution based on Indian holy books should be brought in. So this is one point we should remember, that their rule is not simple. They are out to change the social structure and restore, first bring in the status quo or the social change which was slowly going on, very slowly going on, change this, bring it to status quo, and then try to push it in the backward direction. And believe me, we are following the path of Pakistan. Pakistan, which began in the name of Islam, today, after persecuting Hindus and Christians, they are also persecuting religious minorities, Muslim religious minorities there, like Ahmadiyya and Qadian. In the same Pakistan, scientific development, industrial development could not take place. And same thing is the case with Sri Lanka in the name of Buddhism. So I am very clear that wherever there is a politics in the name of religion, that country cannot progress. That constitution, the brilliant constitution, which we came to have through a long process of constituent assembly meeting, that will be done somewhere in some means or other. So today's crisis, of course, at one level, one feels very helpless. The way ruling government is trying to stifle the opposition parties, arrest of Arvind Kejriwal, arrest of Jharkhand chief minister, ex-chief minister, and all other these things. But the hope lies in opposition parties coming together, not for ages, but each other. Now suddenly together, they realizing that the real threat is to India is not each other, but the party controlled by religious nationalism. So, and also, friends, I want to tell you that many social groups are coming to this understanding that unless we fight this menace of religious nationalism, which wears the garb of religion and is totally a sort of an authoritarian regime in the name of religion. We have seen authoritarian regimes, control from top, emergency, different come. But authoritarian regimes where there is a combination of race or religion, they destroy the society in a very different way. So what of democracy? One of their own leaders, who was probably slightly in a milder way, Lal Krishna Advani, was the first one to say that we are having undeclared emergency. Most of the global organizations have called it either partial democracy or autocracy, elected autocracy. That is a label which fits in well. And last point, how do we combat it? My friends, that this basically such a type of politics is in India. In India, number one, wants to bring in the values of Manusmriti in the name of culture, civilization, and our glorious past. On the other side, it wants to target religious minorities and uh, and of course suppressing the rights of women and animals. That is a total comprehensive agenda. So there is a long battle. Since this government came to power, this politics has become stronger and stronger. So what do we do? That is the $1,000,000 question or $1,000,000 question for us. So some positive things. I'll end this on a positive note that last 1.5 years or so, many social groups are coming together and trying to see that they work at the ground level against the values which are opposed to Indian Constitution. When I say Indian values opposed to Indian Constitution, basically I mean religious nationalist values. They are opposed to that, and they have fairly done a good job in Karnataka, and at the national level also, they have tried to spread their work of enlightening people. Because the basic understanding is that if BJP is in power, these tendencies which are against Indian Constitution and democratic value, secular value, they become doubled up. So defeating them at electoral level is extremely important. And crossing my thing, some controversial thing you will find, I must say that the opposition parties, despite many handicaps, are trying to do a good job by coming together. Tomorrow there is a rally in Delhi. And before this, the atmosphere in the country towards democracy, towards justice was changed by two yatras. First was Bharat Jodo Yatra, second was Bharat Jodo Nyaya. So that is maybe I'm not for any party, but I want that my basic aspiration is that we should come back to democratic means where a prime minister can tell a cartoonist, don't spare me. Now the things are totally different. They have gone topsy-turvy, and any criticism of the government is labeled as anti-national. What is anti-national? What is against the government? That difference they have tried to erase, and this is the biggest attack on democracy in our country. I'll stop at that, and your question answers are welcome. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Dr. Ram. On behalf of Ambedkar International Center USA, I sincerely thank you for providing great insights, and not just about the great insights of the current issues, but you also put up a variety of suggestions on how we can combat those problems. As we all know that constitutional values are going down and democracy is in danger, I know that the hardcore activists like Ambedkar followers are definitely trying their best to do something. And as part of this platform, of course, there are many Ambedkarites who have joined this call. So I would like to open it for question and answers. And then I will hand it over to Anil Wagde, who is our AIC spokesperson. Does anyone wants to raise hands and then ask the questions, or do? Okay, Obaid.
Yeah, I have a yeah, sir, grateful for you, Dr. Ram, for coming to this program and speaking on it, sir. I'm your big fan. So just my quick question was like, basically it's a feeling like that we are back in the 1970s era, where like it was Indira and Indira everywhere on newspapers. And then you have seen the 1970s era, maybe like, sir, you're senior to me. So it's basically like, it feels like we are back in this system where it's Modi, 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 Modi everywhere. And so like now, a lot of things like their electoral bonds issue, and then opposition leaders are getting jailed and all that. These things are happening, sir. So and the another argument led by opposition is like about EVMs are hacked. So now voting is the only part, like we can vote him out and all that, that's fine. But now EVMs are being hacked. This message has gone to the common people. So how to vote him out then? Because now the voters are being confused. So could you please elaborate on this, and could you please highlight on this issue, sir? Thank you.
There are 2-3 things. Thanks for your question. First, I must tell you, this is not comparable to emergency during Indira's time. That I will say was just 10% of what we are witnessing now. What is the difference? In Indira's time, the emergency was imposed from top to down, administrative means. Here, the whole structure is being created from top as well as bottom. What do I mean by bottom? All these organizations related to RSS, which are spread in the society, the administrative machinery and all. So this is not comparable to that. And EVM, I think better we don't discuss because already there is a very strong movement against EVMs in going on in Jantar Mantar in Delhi. And let's just hope that their movement succeeds. But since Election Commission is also taken over by BJP, so any change of that will be very difficult. So irrespective of that, I think we should not become hopeless that anyway how it will matter. But if the people can vote with stronger this thing, the chances of defeating this fundamentalist forces is strong.
Yeah, thank you. Jayant, are you there? If you want to speak your question, you are in the queue.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Everyone, Jai Bhim, great to have you, Dr. Ram. Thank you for walking us through the scenarios prevailing yesterday, today, and for tomorrow. My basic question is, we need to be aware of what we are, what we were, and nobody will believe us if we don't have any record. So what I want to bring everybody's attention to is, do we have anything as a record, as a genome, that yes, we belong to this land? So we need something in black and white. So whether if it's yes, well and good. If it's not, then what is the way forward for it? Secondly,
let me answer one by one. Let me answer one by one.
Sir, just a minute. I want to give you a whole perspective of the question, why I am asking this question. One. Secondly is, this is for us as well as for others. Others, I don't want to specify, but it is very clear that who came from outside. Third thing, if we don't have a lab, the current government or I have some pretty things in black and white where they are going to utilize, and they have established labs to get into this motion to prove that they were here and we were not. So, yeah.
And now, fortunately, what has happened in 2019, the population genetic studies have proved it unshakably that we all originated from South Africa. We came in 4 waves of migration, and Aryans were the last wave of migration. Before that, which people came, they were mainly Dravid and other things. So I just will give you a very good reference. There is a book by Namit Arora, Indians, and there is the same thing from the Wire, Namit Arora's The Indians in 10-part series. So if you see first and second part, it will become clear that we are all immigrants basically in that sense, number one. Number two, there is a brilliant book by Tony Joseph, who puts together archaeology, linguistics, and population genetics, tell us that Indian society is like a pizza, where the basic base is formed by those people who came 65 years ago, then the second layer by 20,000 years ago, third by 6,000 years, and the Aryans the last coming nearly 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. So there is a good book, there is an excellent book. I will recommend all of you, Namit Arora, Indians. It should be available easily. Otherwise, YouTube will give you his 10 series. Currently, I'm watching it with great interest. It is fascinating series called The Indians by Namit Arora on YouTube, Wire. Yeah, next.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that answering. One thing we need to always understand that discrimination in any form, whether someone is Indian, non-Indian, whether someone is from US or some other country, should not be tolerable from the Ambedkarite perspective. Of the next, we have Sanjay Bhagat. Can you please unmute?
Okay. I'm unmuted. So, Taksha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ram sir. It is a beautiful speech. My question is a little bit of political nature and the contemporary from what is happening in India now. So we are in the election phase, and there are the parties which call Ambedkarite parties, like the Vanchit Aghadi in Maharashtra or the BSP in the other parts of the state. Now, when it comes to the coalition, forming the coalitions with the parties, basically the pressure comes that if you don't form the coalitions with the Indian group, because India, the group called as India,
India
correct?
Alliance. India Alliance.
Yeah, India Alliance. Because if you don't go with them, basically your vote will be in favor of the BJP, even if you contest as independent, correct? Now there is a second thought process in that, means these Ambedkarite organizations, if they don't feel that they are not being respected, and how long we can basically eat through with the hands of these people, these established political nature who don't respect us and all. So now in all this scenario, the Ambedkarite people are in the dilemma what they should do, whether they should basically vote for these well-established parties, because the vote against the Ambedkarite parties, their own parties which they believe in, is basically going to be in favor of the BJP, because they will win if they don't vote to the if they vote to the Ambedkarite parties, because they cannot win and it will favor them. So what is your thought process on that? How this particular dilemma can be?
See, I think it is at one level, we all have egos, and in bargaining processes, many times people put the demands which are far above their political strength. So that creates a problem. But Ambedkarite and others, everybody has to see one thing, that we should not do, at least this time, anything which will benefit BJP. Now, same thing applies to Asaduddin Owaisi's party. And let me tell you, in the last Maharashtra elections, Asaduddin Owaisi and Baba Sahib's grandson Prakash Ambedkar, they allied, and through their alliance, they were successful, I'm saying sarcastically, in making that BJP comes to power. Same thing Asaduddin Owaisi did in UP by putting up 100 candidates. And when analysis came, that 13, 14 of those seats went to BJP because of this. So I think for a time being, for single go, we have to ensure that we should pressurize Ambedkarite parties to have a decent alliance, having their demands. But respect-wise, it is again a subjective perception, because there are other forces in the society also. But one thing I'm sure, if we do anything which helps BJP to win, it is counterproductive for our own interest in the long run. And it will harm the Dalit and other weaker sections of society more than different other aspects of society. So it is up to their thinking, how they think. Like Asaduddin Owaisi, he in Maharashtra demanded 5 seats. He has 1 MP, now he is demanding 5 seats. So he was not given 5 seats. He said, I will contest in more seats. Definitely, if he contests in more seats, there will be split in the Muslim votes, and it will help the BJP. So these are, I don't know, very questions of dilemma. But by and large, I think Ambedkarite parties should try to strike a equation, because like Mayawati, there was a great hope that Mayawati will come to the alliance. They kept waiting for a long time. But again, some people say the fear of ED raids keeps them coming forward to join the India alliance. That I don't know. So beyond that, I can't comment. But one thing I am sure, anything which you do which helps the BJP to come, it is counterproductive to the interest of Dalits in the long run.
That's very interesting point. Quickly moving to the next question, because we have many lined up questions. So Prajwal has asked the question that, do the electoral bond revelation concerns all citizens, and will it matter to voters given the apparent merging of politics and religion? What's your take on it?
Yeah, see, this whole electoral bond is a big hoax. And this government has very cleverly used it. And they have used ED to ensure that the industrialists and others, they give them big donation. Even in the case in which Kejriwal has been arrested, the money has gone to BJP. Like the policy was made by Arvind Kejriwal, but the money has gone to BJP. So ultimately, we have to see where is the money going. So electoral bond, I think, one of the greatest tricks played by this party to accumulate 8,000 crores. And with that money, they built so many huge BJP offices and all that. So this must be their one of the worst thing which has happened to Indian democracy. When one party tries to corner, blackmail the industrialists into shelling out their money for this. So we have to also think, in case we can defeat them in these elections, how the election funding should take place. So that is a very good thing. When if individual parties are funding their this thing, the problems are there, and BJP has taken the problem to the sky, and that I think is one of the very negative thing for our democracy and constitution.
Thank you. Swapnil, you have raised your hand. Do you want to go?
Yeah. Hello, sir. Good evening. Yeah, my name is Swapnil. I'm from Abu Dhabi. Even I'm also your big fan, sir. I'm following you on YouTube. And so my question is, earlier all the superior authorities like ED, income tax, or any other government, they were obliged to constitution. For them, constitution is first, apart from any or political party or a leader. But now the situation is completely opposite. What's the reason?
See, the reason is that this government is desperate to continue in power for good. And the basic, because they are not committed to Indian constitution in any way. Right from the beginning, RSS had opposed this constitution. And basically from the depth of their heart or morality, constitutional morality, it is not a part of their thinking. So they have tried to infiltrate into election commission. They have tried to infiltrate into universities. Then this whole Reserve Bank is also under their influence. Most of these autonomous institutions are practically infiltrated by them. It's sort of a deep state. So earlier also, many times during Congress rule, some of these organizations were manipulated by Congress. I don't deny that. But the degree is like if Congress was manipulating it to 10%, now the manipulation is 100%. So there is nothing moral about it. It has to just, such a party we can't afford to have at our national level.
Yeah, thank you. Mahendra, can you unmute yourself?
JB friends, and thank you AIC for organizing this talk, and really appreciate Ram sir for taking out his time and educating us on this. I see that based on your talk and what we hear from the overall media, seems that immediate threat is a Godi or Modi government. The current BJP government is the biggest problem, and that definitely needs to be defeated. But historically, it has been seen that it's a Brahminical ideology which kind of morph itself into into power under various names, and this has been going on for a very long time. Let that be Buddhist principles, and then probably over the period of time it got again corrupted by the same Brahminical ideology, and probably it got divided into so many different things and was taken over into so-called Brahmanism or Hinduism. The similar thing happened during the Mughal time. The same people kind of made sure that they were in the tight alliance and good faith of Mughal Empire, and made sure that their interests are kind of upheld. Same thing happened with Shivshahi as well, Shivaji regiment, and then probably Shivaji regiment turned into Peshwai, and probably its exploit went on. And I think Congress and BJP looks to be the similar thing, that they have been kind of just taking turns to make sure that certain interest of certain section of the society, Brahminical ideologies, are kind of upheld. That's what is going on now in this scenario. How can we make sure that the enlightenment, or not really enlightenment, but the awakening of the Bahujan powers, and probably their efforts and their resources gets united and truly gets used for defeating the actual source, and not just kind of transfer of power from one form to another form, but it is still going to the Brahminical ideology?
See, I don't deny that Brahminical ideology is too powerful. And during freedom struggle also, the Brahminical forces were divided into three parts: Hindu Mahasabha, RSS, and part of it also infiltrated Congress. I don't deny. But I'll request you to go through one of the books which I will is available on my website, BJP, RSS, and its political agenda, and also Modi rule. Some two books are there, even in the e-book form. Now, my basic argument is BJP is a different cup of tea. I would have used a stronger word, but I'm using the word. It's a different cup of tea because it is totally controlled by RSS. There is no other party which is controlled by such forces. Other parties can be influenced, can be pressurized to come on the secular path. I'm not saying they are totally secular. Secularism is not an automatic process. You have to keep pushing and pressurizing. Now, if you want, you study UPA 1 till there was a Congress supported by left from outside. That time, if you see, most of the progressive legislations, right to food, right to information, right to education, came in. So, Brahminical forces, I concede, but the Brahminical forces within BJP can never be controlled. In other parties, they are in small number. BJP is 100% Brahminical, Congress has 15-20% Brahminical forces, which can be controlled from democratic pressures. And that's what I feel. So I will request you not to compare BJP with any other party, because BJP is controlled by RSS as total naked ideology of Hindu Rashtra and national. Well, theoretically, Congress is committed to secularism, democracy. So you can always do a sort of a correction to them that, look, this is your agenda. You have to come here. And that's what we have seen also. UPA 1, I will request all my friends to see the policies of UPA 1. When many of my close friends were part of National Advisory Committee that included the Adivasi intellectual, Dalit intellectual, advising the government. Do you think such a thing is possible anytime with BJP regime? Not at all. Because inherently it is very dictatorial. It is totally committed to Brahminism 100%. So you have to choose here. Lesser evil, partly I will say that maybe. And second is Ajaz Ahmad had beautifully described it, that BJP is programmatically communal and Congress is pragmatically communal. I hope this difference you can make, programmatically and pragmatically. So pragmatic things we can counter through democratic pressures, through enlightenment and other things, but BJP cannot be compared with anything else.
Thank you. I think that's a very good differentiation you have suggested here. Second last question for this talk today. Manjunath, you want to speak that question or you want me to read it? Okay, I think I will go ahead. How do we encounter powerful BJP RSS, its IT wings, and support of ED, CBI, and all other orgs without restoring to revolution kind of scenario?
See, I think, this control of state is one thing. But when now more and more people who are at the ground, they are realizing that the problems faced by average people are too strong. And that's why though some of their surveys are showing that BJP will come back to power again. But basically, if you see that people's hunger, unemployment, farmers' problems, women's oppression, Adivasis' marginalization, all these things may tilt the electoral balance against BJP this time. I am not only optimistic, but I am also, whatever I am connected to the ground level groups, that is my slight feedback, and that's what should happen. Of course, I can make one request also, that because some of the parties, their funds are being seized. So I don't know whether people like you can put forward an appeal. I don't know about that. That is not my area of thinking at all. But despite that, I think people will come forward, and many commentators are hopeful that people's coming forward. Short of like French Revolution thing, I don't think that will happen. But electoral revolution can happen. Like very engineered saying that have rum and no cake if you don't have bread. That situation is already there. So people do realize that we need bread. Bread has no substitute. So anyway, that's it. That's it. Something which we cannot comment very strongly at this moment.
Sure, thank you. And we have now last question, maybe a one-liner. What is one thing that every NRI can and must do in the current scenario, is your point?
See, I think the minimum is that use of social media for defeating BJP. That I think, like everybody cannot become Dhruv Rathi or that thing. But I'm sure you all have a lot of contacts here. So if you can urge that, my opinion, make India Alliance win, support India Alliance through your contacts and through your social media reach. At least for one time, let's forget other things. One time, this election. We can revive all that, oh, Brahminical ego and all that, and trying to have our own things with bigger power. We can bring it back. We need not suppress that. But one time, let's have a walkover of India Alliance. And then once India Alliance comes to power, let's pressurize that India Alliance into the type of thing we want. And I have a faith, I have a belief, I have an understanding that we can influence, pressurize India Alliance into something. And such a horrible derobing of democracy will never take place under any other regime.
Perfect. So thank you so much for taking all the questions and providing your thoughts on that. I sincerely thank you for coming forward and spending time with us. With that, I would like to invite Anil Wagde, who has been instrumental in connecting global Ambedkarites and driving the anti-caste movement in USA, and who is also a AIC spokesperson, to conclude the talk. Anil.
Thanks, Takshat. Thank you, Dr. Ram Puniyani. You are amongst the fans, as you must have found out. Everybody said, "Sir, I am your fan. We are following you on the YouTube channels. We are forwarding your videos." I remember a long back your video on Tipu Sultan. He was just a king, not a Muslim king, and that was kind of getting circulated. That was my introduction to you. Thank you very much, sir. I think it has been a great, enlightening talk. It is difficult to summarize. Sometimes it's really simple to summarize as well. Defeat BJP is what we are saying in one shot. But since I have been given the task to summarize, I will try and do that to my best. Currently, secularism is under threat. Brahminization is progressing. Manusmriti is being brought back. 400 MPs, 400 plus MPs they want is because they want to kind of change the constitution. Incidentally, the person who made that comment that 400 MPs, the constitution should be changed for 400, getting 400 MPs, he was denied a ticket. He's from Karnataka. I don't remember his name. Scientific temper is compromised. Last time, demonetization kind of denied the funds to the opposition parties. This time it is electoral bonds. Income gap is widening. So BJP is not doing what it needs to do, in the sense it is anti-reservation, anti-women policies. They do not talk about education, employment, healthcare, farmers' issues, students' issues, integrating or welcoming the religious minorities and not not increasing in the gap that is there, and the lynchings and etc. All institutions are infiltrated by RSS BJP. The election commission, in a hurry, they appointed the 2 election commissioners recently who are just towing the BJP line. RBI is under attack. ED and CBI are just the extensions or tools of the government currently. Media has stooped so low that everybody calls it the Godi media. You compared something with Ambedkar and RSS, or contradicted, how they are contradiction. Dr. Ambedkar, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar stood for social justice, burnt Manusmriti, so for anti-Brahminical forces. He, of course, wrote a secular constitution. Secularism is very core of that. And RSS is complete anathema. RSS/BJP is complete anathema to all of that. They oppose constitution. They want to change the constitution. They oppose lowered caste participation in the government organs. oppose reservation, oppose women participation for that matter, and of course, the religious separation for the religious minority, wherein they talk about Christianity and Muslims are being foreign religions and so on. Great question and answers. Thank you for providing a lot of those references, like Namit Arora's Indian very beautifully done. Encourage everybody to watch Namit Arora's Indians 10 series on the YouTube where it is available. Coming to the crux of it, like I said, it's very simple to summarize. Everyone should vote out BJP. Let our egos kind of keep. I'm not advising these guys. I'm just summarizing the talk. So please don't come after me. This is what Dr. Ram Puniyani is requesting, urging people. Everyone should vote out BJP. Congress is the lesser of the evil. BJP is programmatically communal, whereas Congress is pragmatically communal. We know the moment tomorrow Congress is in the power, we are going to go after Congress as usual. We seem to be the lower caste people, so to say, are in perpetual opposition, whether it's Congress, whether it's BJP. But today it is BJP which is completely trying to kind of wipe out what Dr. Ambedkar has achieved in a great form of secular constitution and so on. So everyone should vote out the BJP. Congress is the lesser of the evil. Come together, keep our differences aside, for once unite. And we think that, today BJP is probably kind of undefeatable. But then the mighty fall, everybody knows. But let's not make sure that exercise vote, urge everybody back home in India for people to vote to the candidates that will defeat BJP. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was really, really pleasure listening to you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the people who participated. Thanks, Arhant Patharde and Rahul Pawar for connecting us with Dr. Ram Puniyani. It was great having you here, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Thank you all.